Georgina with the Association of British Paediatric Nurses, and today I'm going to be talking to a children's nurse. We're going to talk all about their life and their experiences of being a children's nurse. I hope you enjoy the video.
Hi, I'm here today interviewing Lucie Planner, who's had experience being a children's nurse. Welcome.
Oh, thanks for having me.
And so, are you currently a children's nurse or do you work in another field?
Yeah, I'm currently a children's nurse. I work for NHS England in a regional post as lead children's nurse.
Brilliant. And how long have you been a children's nurse for?
So I started my career actually. So qualified is a different answer, but I started my career as a Band 2 support worker, and I started working in a special care baby unit, which I absolutely loved, and decided to go to university and do my training. And that was so I started working in 2005, but I did my training from 2007 to 2010. So I've been qualified 13 years.
Brilliant. And why children's nursing?
Oh, wow. I think sometimes I was always going to work with children. It was either going to be a teacher or, well, in fact, there was a small period of time where I thought I might join the RAF, but put that aside, I always knew I wanted to do something with children. So when I started working at the hospital, I was working with babies, and I must admit, I thought I would probably go back and do neonatal nursing when I did my children's nursing course, but I just love all different ages. And I think the reason I love it is because you get such a variety with different developmental stages. You get the joy of looking after really young children, which surprise you in everything that they say, and how brave and how courageous and how fun they are, because fun is such a big important thing to me. And then you get meeting young people that are incredible as they're growing up and really finding themselves. And I just love all the different ages of development, but I also really love looking after adults. So a lot of it is parent support, and it's a family unit that you're looking after. So children are a really, really integral part of what I do, but it is the family as well.
Yeah. And tell us about being a lead CYP nurse. What does that entail?
So one of those jobs that I wouldn't have known existed. In fact, actually, we were almost a pilot with the roles that came out. So my role, what I specifically do at the moment, my work stream is looking into workforce. So trying to understand why our current workforce pressures are so high, because they really are. It's a very different landscape across health, and that is actually global. It's not just the UK. We've got global shortages of nurses and all healthcare professionals. So working in the role that I'm working in workforce is really interesting, because I want to understand what the pressures are, because if we need evidence to understand what true reflection is, so we can try and do something about it. So what I actually do on a day-to-day basis is I have lots of communication across teams, mainly emails. I go and meet people in person, and I work with lots of teams across the region. So I cover the southeast of England for 3 days a week at the moment, but I also now have taken on covering the northwest. So it's kind of a diagonal across the country. So understanding the right people to link in with, understanding the right meetings to go to, and understanding what's being said to me and what I need to be feeding up and what we need to be doing about things is a lot of what I do. It's a lot of communicating. And we've got certain work streams that we're working on when we're trying to come up with solutions. And it's working with a range of different professionals, but not in the same way as when I first worked in a hospital. It's very different to that.
It sounds like brilliant work. And how did you get into doing that work?
Well, I often think with nursing, you just don't know where it's going to go, and also where it's going to go back to. So when I worked as a Band 2, which I'm really proud of my unregistered time, because that really, and I say unregistered because I wasn't a registered nurse, that's my pre-registered career, really gave me lots of insight to know that I wanted to go into nursing. So I'd urge anybody that wants some exposure to understand to go and work as a healthcare support worker, because it was brilliant. But I worked in the hospital. I did advanced practice. I was working quite a lot in children's orthopedics, and I ended up leaving the hospital, never completely leaving though, always keeping my hand in with some bank work, to go and work in an independent school. And I worked as a school nurse, and I really, really enjoyed that time as well. Then I went back into the hospital, COVID times, went to do all sorts of things. And then I worked in a strategy role, overseeing the development of service. And any different opportunity for work gives you different insight and different perspectives. And what's really important is that clinical experience. So where I come to meetings, my clinical experience where I've worked in the hospital and I've worked outside the hospital and I've worked in different roles, all sort of shape my thoughts, and I might bring a different perspective to how we can all work together. So getting into this type of role, going back to that question, that's tricky, because I think it's just having as much opportunity as you can, make your own opportunity, carve out, jobs, and carve out kind of courses that you'd like to do. I don't think I've only said no to one course that I'd still really, really like to do. I just couldn't do it at the time when it was available. Because you just don't know what's going to be around the corner, and keep your eyes open to anything. And as you develop on your nursing career, you just get these different opportunities, and anything that you can build into your kind of backpack of experience, I would say just do it, because you just don't know what the job is around the corner. But I applied for it and my skill set met, and I've been doing this for the past year.
Brilliant. And going back to your training, what was the most difficult part of it for you?
So when I trained, I originally went on to do the advanced diploma. There wasn't a degree. Well, there was a degree option, but I didn't have good enough grades to get onto the degree program, actually. But my first exam, my first essay, I had to check it was a pass. It was a 40%. I couldn't believe that. I was like, above 40 is a pass. I don't know if it's a pass. So found out it was a pass, and then really realised I needed to work a bit harder for my academia side of things for the course, because I was just literally scraped through a pass on that one. So I think the academic side was challenging. But having said that, when I got my head around it and I listened to what was being taught and I listened to the advice, I actually ended up going on the degree program, and I did really well, and I was really, really pleased with my final result. So I think the academic side, it is really challenging, but there's a lot of people at university that will help you. And when you can relate what you're learning to practice, particularly as a very practical person, very visual, if I can understand that we're learning something for a reason, and you're learning it to develop your context and your perspective, and actually there is a purpose for you understanding this information, then I think that helped me with the motivation for essays. So for me, I would say essays was the hardest part, but then I had previous clinical experience, so it might not be the same for everybody.
And what's your favourite part of being a children's nurse?
Oh, so this role is an interesting one, because I feel quite step back in certain ways to how I was when I was frontline delivering care. But what I really try and do is try and stay as linked in as possible with the people that are still delivering that care, so that I can understand that what I'm doing is going to impact that, because that's really important to me. So I think making a difference, knowing that you're bringing value, knowing that you're doing something for the better. I've got so many lovely memories of working with, all the kind of faces that I can think of in my clinical time, and making a difference to somebody, hopefully making a positive difference, and knowing that you're doing this because you want to be helping somebody get better and improving someone's quality of life. The small acts of joy, I think, are the most important to me. Those times when you made somebody smile and you helped make something a situation better.
You said you've had so many wonderful memories of it. Have you got an experience that stands out in your mind as your best experience with children's nursing?
One would be really difficult. I've got loads of lovely lovely things. And I think what it comes down to is when you've made a rapport with somebody and they really trust you. So I can think of a couple of children just for little things that we might have done, such as a cannula, and we've managed to make that a really positive experience. Working with teenagers when they've opened up and they've really trusted, and we've been able to have a great relationship about giving advice and signposting and supporting and providing support that was required. So it'd be really, really difficult for me to say one thing, because there's too many things, but all very special.
Well, it's lovely to hear that there are too many to choose from. And do you have a personal mantra or philosophy at all?
Well, morals are really, really high. I've got really high values and morals that I sort of hold dear, and I think that's about compassion and kindness. Always learning, because none of us are a finished product, and actually we can reflect on things and think, cool, I would have done that differently, and understanding that, we try our best, we work as a team, and we learn from each other. They're probably some of my main things, but I think kindness and compassion are always going to be at the heart for me.
And what 3 words do you think a child would use to describe you?
Oh, I don't know. It depends which child you ask. My children might say something slightly different. I think they'd probably say, I'm smiley. I get that. I'd like to be smiley and happy. They might say I'm a bit funny, and that would be okay. I try and be funny and try and bring some joy. So if a child was explaining to me, hopefully happy, smiley, and fun, I'd be happy with that.
Yeah. And what qualities do you think every children's nurse should have?
I think it's really important that you want to make a difference. So you want to be seeing improvement. You want to be doing things as kind and as empathetic as possible. So I think empathy is really important. We can never understand what someone's going through, but we need to recognize that they might be going through something completely different to what you think. So widening up your perspective, learning always. Every opportunity where you're at work is an opportunity to learn, and it's learning how we communicate, and that's years of learning how to communicate, and you do that by experiencing more and being taught well and being guided well by your mentors and your peers. But I think it's really important that you're willing, that you're kind, you're empathetic. You need to be able to be resilient in a way that comes with support, because things don't always go the way we'd like it to be. But you need to be using evidence-based practice, and doing the best that you can with what you've got available, and that's working within a team. And if you're not sure of something, not being afraid to speak up. So I think empathy, challenging yourself and others is important. You've got to be an advocate for a child and the family. So you do need to be able to use your voice where you can, finding things out. So you've got to be inquisitive. You've got to be learning, constantly learning. And I'd say ambitious. And I say ambitious because I think it's really important that none of us are a finished product. We're all learning always, and you can be a better nurse for learning constantly. So learning.
So you've already said a few things there, but if you could give advice to somebody wanting to become a children's nurse, what would you say?
I'd say if you really want to do it, and you'll have the most brilliant career, and you'll bring value in ways you may not have realized before. We talk about vocations a lot with nursing, and that people say sometimes it feels like a calling, and what you need to do is need to understand that actually this job is really important. And even though I'm doing something that's quite removed from hands-on nursing, I know that the work we're doing is to improve the point of the care at the point of delivery. As it's all about making sure that we're trying to give the best care that we can. So the advice I'd give is to go into it with open eyes, learn from every opportunity, even if it's something that didn't go the way you wanted to. You'll be able to take something away from that. Get yourself as equipped as possible, so exposure to all different things, and anything you're not sure of, just ask somebody. And if you don't feel you can ask in the situation that you're in, find somebody that you can, because there's learning in all opportunities. So I think if you want to do it and you love being around children, you love being around families, you want to make a positive difference, and you want to have an impact not just on the children at this point but on their future life, then absolutely go for it.
And what are some of the challenges that children's nurses are facing at the moment?
I think it's really challenging in a lot of areas at the moment, and I think that across the country we know that we've got huge mental health challenges. We're trying to support people, and it really depends on where you're working as where your challenges are. We're coming into winter, which means that we usually have a rise with viruses, and what we call winter pressures, where more children will be needing support with their breathing. But we've also got challenges across absolutely every service at the moment, it feels, with expansion, and the care and complexities have increased so much that it's really challenging to deliver what we've always delivered, we've always tried to deliver. So I think challenges are vast, and listing them is really difficult, because a lot of the challenges are challenges due to the increase in complexities. We use the word acuity, which kind of means complexities, different levels of care that are required. Also, not having enough staff is really challenging, because people want to give the care they want to give. It's really difficult. We have lots of things that we'd like to be preventing ill health more so, but you'd need to be increasing the workforce first. So I think the challenges are vast. It isn't a walk in the park going into children's nursing, but I think that the programs that I work on, such as the Children's Transformation Programme, we're all trying to improve things together and collectively, and it's about that collaboration. And it's not perfect, and we would like it to be a lot better than it is, and we're all working together really hard to make it as better as we can, as best as we can in the future. So I think the main challenges are really tricky to kind of list, but that's just a few of them.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. And can you tell me about the Children's Transformation Project?
Yes, so I work within the Children's Transformation Programme within NHS England, and there's lots of different work streams that that are listed as part of that. We've got clinical leads that look into asthma and how we can improve asthma. We've got clinical leads for diabetes. We've got all sorts of clinics that run. We look at waiting lists, which we work closely with our specialised commissioning teams, and they look at elective recovery waiting lists. We look at the care that we deliver in terms of children and young people mental health in acute settings. That means in a hospital setting, and we work really closely with our special education needs colleagues, our learning disabilities and autism colleagues, our mental health colleagues. So there's lots of overlap with the different programs. The whole point of the programs is to improve the health outcomes of the children and young people. So there's all different work streams that marry in together, that look at different metrics. There's something called the Core 20+5, which is rolled out across the systems, and that is about looking at the 20% most deprived in the population and their health inequalities, and how we can improve their health outcomes for children and young people across the country. Brilliant. I could go on. There's a lot more that goes into that, but that's just a little bit.
And when things are hard at work, what keeps you going?
I think it's very different when you work in a role like this, when you're often sat on the computer doing work. And I think for me, it's really important to know that the work is worthwhile. I had a conference on Friday, and I was chatting to a colleague who was able to tell me that some of the things that we've put into place, they've taken back to practice, and that they've had a ripple effect with that. So I think it's having that understanding that what you're doing is important regardless of where you are in kind of a whole big system. So it's gaining support from your colleagues. And I think if you're working in frontline staff and you've had a really difficult shift, I think it's really important you talk to somebody. We've got some absolutely brilliant professionals out there, the PNA advocacy, which looks at supporting colleagues, and talking to your colleagues. And if it's been really challenging, make sure you've got a way of being able to express that and seeing what could be learned from it. So I think for me, anything that's really challenging, I'll be talking to a colleague about, and we'll be working through it together and just doing the best that you can.
I love that you stick together and really talk. It's all about supporting each other, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, you become part of a family with nursing. And I think any place that I've worked, you leave a little bit of your heart on those wards because you leave parts of your memories there. So I don't think of nursing as you've sort of, it's a big alumni. It's just another part of your journey that you could go back to, and you kind of collect more colleagues and more contacts along the way.
And how did children's nursing change during COVID?
Tricky for me because I worked outside of a main hospital and then went back into support. So I think a lot of changes have come post-COVID in terms of our waiting lists and how delayed a lot of our services have been in their recovery. I think that we've got lots of work to kind of keep working on to improve. So I think COVID will have had huge impacts on our children and young people and their personal circumstances as well, which later has an impact on what we see in the hospitals and in the community. So I think there's quite a lot in that question.
And what's the most important thing that nursing has taught you?
Oh, the most important thing, I think teamwork. There's, you need everybody. You need all the different people and all the different strengths, and we're all learning from each other. Sometimes when I've worked in roles where I've literally been jumping up and down distracting a baby, and the baby's been smiling, and a procedure's been able to be done, and that's very different to chairing a meeting in a different capacity. But I think my point for that is that you need lots of different people. You need to gain strength from understanding that as a team you can make a difference, and just working as collaboratively and supportively as possible. And it's learning from each other always. Shared learning is massive part of the importance and what I've learned.
And looking to the future of children's nursing, what do you think it's important that we focus on?
I think it's really important that we focus on good training, good education. It's really important that we've got people with morals and values that want to come and make a difference, that want to come and work collaboratively, that have the shared goals of wanting to improve our health and future for the children and young people that we care for. So I think those are probably the main bits.
And the big question in this interview is always, would you encourage other people to take up children's nursing?
Absolutely. I love being a children's nurse. I am so proud of being a children's nurse. It brings me so much value, and I hope over the years I've made a personal difference to people, but as part of a wider team, we've made a difference and we've improved children's outcomes. So I would say, if you want to do something where you feel you're making a difference, you want to feel valued, that you're doing something that makes that can potentially make a situation a good situation, by having the right skilled, trained people with the right attitudes and the right willingness, and that to me is everything. I would advocate anyone that wants to do those things to do children's nursing.
That's so lovely to hear. Thank you so much for doing this interview. It's been wonderful.
Thank you, Georgina. It's been so lovely to chat to you.
Thank you so much for watching our video. I've been Georgina with the Association of British Paediatric Nurses. If you enjoyed our video, please give us a like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you have a question you'd like to ask a paediatric nurse, pop it in the comments below and we'll see if we can ask it in one of our videos. Bye!